All right, I will call to order a regular meeting of the Wellington Board of Selectmen. It is Monday, October 2nd, 2023 at 6:30 p.m. You will join me in the pledge of allegiance. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yep. All right. Next item is approval of minutes. If you recall, we took no action at our last meeting, so you have two sets of minutes, one from September 5th and one from September 18th. But entertain a motion.
I move we accept the minutes of September 5th, 2023.
Is there a second?
Second that.
Seconded by Jim. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Carries. That leaves us with September 18th, our last regular meeting.
I'll move that we accept the minutes of September 18th.
Second.
Motion by Jim, seconded by
So
Mark.
just
Any
for
discussion?
clarity, yes, for clarity on this, since this meeting was essentially like an informational meeting.
But it was still a regular meeting, and I think you
Okay.
can see my comments in
Yeah,
the
reading,
second.
yeah.
We made sure to put that language in there so that no action, and then I was when going through them.
Going back over, like verifying how we addressed that.
Yeah, and making sure that there was no action. For
Right.
instance, Karen, she usually starts her meetings from a template that ends with who makes a motion to adjourn. I made sure that was removed because we didn't actually move to adjourn. I just adjourned.
Right. Okay, yeah.
No action.
By concurrence.
Yes.
All right, I was pretty worried. Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. All right, that brings us to present to speak. Is this good business?
Yeah, do you want me to address it under the business?
Yeah.
Beautiful, even better. I will sit down then.
Excellent. Anybody else present to speak? Anyone online? You should have the ability to unmute yourself. You do not, however, need to be on camera. Going once, going twice. All right, you will have another opportunity at the end of the meeting. All right, folks, you see a list of correspondence. What's not in there are the invitations you see in your packet that came from the library. I'll mention that under good and welfare, but you each got an individual invitation.
Have to be paid for it, Gary.
Hefty. Okay, on to my report. I have nothing new to update on our steep project or lots of projects. Mike, do you have anything new in SBC?
The final report is very far along in draft. The SBC is not meeting on Wednesday of this week. It's meeting at the next regular scheduled meeting. And we may finalize the report, the final report at that meeting. And we're working on minutes, and we'll do a final financial report also. So if we can wrap up all of that at the next meeting, then we will send that report off, and we'll probably remain viable for one more meeting in case there's feedback on the report that we have to correct or whatever. And then I'm assuming we will ask someone's permission to not meet anymore.
Yeah, and to that, the appointments when they were made were until the charge of the committee was complete. And in my mind and conversations that I had had with our attorney then, and some digging deeper now, if the committee determines that their work is done, then that fulfills that charge.
Right.
So
what we would probably do, assuming we wrap that all up in the next meeting, then what we would probably do is we would convey the report and a communication that says, unless there's something to correct or alter on the report, we believe we are done.
okay.
And
would then could I ask then if that once the report is done that maybe the SBC or someone yourself, even as our liaison and the chair, then make that final report to the board of selectmen?
Absolutely.
That's would be in line. All right. ARPA, we met today. I'm happy to say we closed 6 projects. And every one of those projects was under budget, some $20,000, some $200, but every project was under budget. And returned a total of $54,840.45 to Fund 19, which is the ARPA funds. We discussed the two projects that we had yet to take action on and how to handle that. And what we decided to do was wait. There are a couple of projects, one of them being the drainage and lights project at River Road that will be putting out RFPs and coming back soon. And we wanted to get a sense of where those costs are today before we allocated any of those additional dollars that we were able to save. We have $40,000 set aside in contingency, in a general contingency. And then that 54,000 plus some funds we hadn't expended yet. So we're gonna wait until after that. And again, I will remind you, we have until December 31st, 2024 to encumber the funds, in December 31st, 2026 to spend all the funds. So I have no doubt that when my time on ARPA is done, the work will continue and they will work to spend every penny, so we don't return anything and put it to full use for Wellington. So I mean, I was excited about the savings we've been able to see.
Those are some important milestones you just laid out.
Yes, they are.
If you can make sure those
Yep.
get in the minutes, that would be helpful, I'm sure, to the next board of selectmen.
Yes. The next board and the next first selectman specifically will receive a couple of binders that are very thick, detailed from every meeting, and feel free to read, and when you're done, read some more. All right, I want to update you on the upstairs common room for a couple of reasons. We moved down here. One, getting back to our pre-COVID normal and utilizing this meeting space was one of the reasons. It's certainly more aesthetically pleasing. Second, there's no more air conditioning up there. Those old air conditioners have finally hit the bucket. And so we did start pricing what it would look like to put new units in the event we could fund that with our current budget. We're looking at about $22,000. We went out to 3 vendors. And they're all right in that range. I can tell you we don't have $22,000 in the maintenance line item total for this office building. And at this point, I will be compiling a CIP request that I hope the next board puts forth to CIP for that project. Because I can't say at this point in the fiscal year that we have that in surplus. It's too soon to tell. But I would suggest that, and these will be some of the notes I'll be leaving forth for my successor to consider using some surplus funds if possible to get that done, because waiting for CIP in that time of year will leave that room pretty stifling.
Yeah, it's almost useless in the summer without air.
It is completely. Besides that, that's the kitchen where staff, can have their lunch, take a break if they need to away from their desk, and our food pantry is in that space. And so it's already challenging in the winter time because that room gets really cold. And so keeping it warm, it's not an option, but it is a lot of money. It's going to take multiple mini splits in that room to cool it. So, which stands to reason it took 3 window wall units. So, if something changes between now and then, I'll keep you updated, but I wanted to kind of let you know where we were at there. Staffing perspective, Human Services Director is still vacant, and the recording secretaries for CIP and Board of Finance are still needed. So if anyone's looking for some part-time evening work, taking care of minutes, we encourage you to talk to anyone you might know, anyone who's watching and reading our minutes, to reach out to the selector's office, and we can take over the job description and more information. That brings us to Public Works. I would be trying. Are you able to join us online? Here he comes.
Okay, can you hear me all right?
Sure can, yeah.
Okay. All right. So here we go. Roadside mowing is still continuing throughout town. We've been cleaning catch basins off with all the rain that we keep having. Tree removal, we cut some trees down in the back of center school. It was blocking the cameras for the playground, so we went in there and removed some trees. Chip seal is complete. We'll be sweeping those probably within the next upcoming weeks. We worked behind one of the fire stations trying to find a curtain drain and an under drain. I worked with Alex last week about that. We did find the drain, but he was going to have it cameraed, and then we'd go from there, whatever help he would need. We've been servicing some vehicles and some equipment for the upcoming snow season. We installed the new park bench at River Road Athletic Park. We've moved desks around at the town office building and a couple offices. We're still backfilling edges around town from the washouts. We moved the pile of stone that was when we did the parking lot over on Mason Road. We piled up the stone. The Conservation Committee wanted us to spread it out, so we did that along Mason Road the other day. We put some new light bulbs in the offices at the town office building. We're still out there grading the dirt roads, weather permitting. And then an update on Polster Road. I spoke with a contractor this morning. He will be out tomorrow. They're going to put some process down on the road to make it smoother than what it is, kind of regrade it, touch it up. And then they're hoping for Wednesday, Thursday to pave the road, weather permitting. So hopefully that road will be paved finally this week. So that is the plan.
Hope the rain holds out. So I know we got a lot of rain this weekend. Troy, on Friday, Troy and I were in contact all day on Friday. I am happy to report we didn't have any major issues. We had some some edge of the road washout, and so they do some work there, but no street flooding, no real concerns. So kudos to that. If the water could just stop, there's no place for it to go. So kudos to all the work that they've been able to get done despite the weather. Do you think you'll be done mowing anytime soon, Troy?
We've kind of had a kind of a growing season. Everything keeps going. So hopefully, they're out and about. Hopefully we'll get everything mowed. I know some of the dirt roads we've mowed now. So usually that comes to an end, when they do the dirt roads last. So, but hopefully we'll get everything mowed. If there is something out there that we've missed or something, please give me a call at the office. We'll get out there and cut it. One other thing is with all the rain and the leaves, it seems like it's going to be an early leaf season. If you do have a catch basin in front of your house that is blocked with leaves, please go out there and help unclog it. It makes a big difference. We can't be everywhere all the time, but if you do, just kind of rake the leaves along the side and let the water flow in there.
Yeah, I will say, Troy, I noticed at the car show on the green on Sunday, boy, there's no leaves on those trees. You think it's simply because of the rain?
Yeah, the maple trees right now have there's so much water that it's affecting the maple trees a little bit more, and there is a fungus on the maple trees. It's not a big concern, but it is due to all the water that it's a root fungus and a fungus on the leaves that are making the leaves drop faster than normal. So, but hopefully we can get some warm weather or try not to have it rain every other day, and hopefully it'll be okay.
Surprising to see them so barren.
Yeah, well, they just go around and then fall off. There's
Yeah,
no
color whatsoever. So a little disappointing for those of us who like leaf peeping.
I think they call that pastel.
I am now of that age where I really enjoy that. So all right, thank you. Any questions or comments for Troy?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, so it brings us to new business. Our first item, we have one appointment. Today, this was a holdover from our last meeting. And so I'm going to make a motion and we can have a discussion. I move to appoint William Bennell as a regular member of the Wellington Sustainable and Energy Committee effective September 18th, 2023, expiring November 4th, 2026. Second by Mike. This is a committee that's really just getting up off the ground and going. And yes, you did hear me say that right. It sounds funny. Wellington Sustainable and Energy Committee. That is how it is written in the town clerk's office. And so they did a lot of research when they gave it to us, thinking it was incorrect. So at some point we may see if we can correct that, yeah, it just doesn't
Yeah,
sound grammatically correct,
It's
so,
cumbersome.
yeah. And so we typically call it Y committee, so we will, look towards that. But I want to thank Bill for his willingness to participate. I believe a month or so ago, we appointed John Tian back to that committee, and some other members stayed on, so Bill is here with us tonight. It's not necessary, if you want to share anything with us, you're welcome to.
Well, I heard about the Sustainable Energy Committee, and I thought that it was, an interesting thing to try and pursue and see what we could find throughout the time that we have to try to add to our resources and, reduce our costs. So hopefully.
Thank you once again, Bill. I appreciate your willingness to serve in this capacity. So any further discussion?
Yeah, I just have one comment. I just find it odd that we're establishing a committee and appointing members for another group of selectmen.
Yeah, I will say we didn't establish it. It's been long established. There are openings on this committee. They've been dormant since COVID.
So was
some members have come forward.
Was this the committee that did the Siemens Energy?
No, I think this came about after, I believe this came about after that. I have to look at the exact date. But no, I believe that was driven by the town, not a particular committee. And so we're not starting a committee. This committee is in existence, and they have been stagnant, and some seats open as terms ended, and folks looking towards where they can serve and approach the town clerk's office.
Is there a charge with the town clerk?
There must be. There must have been one when one started. Do I have it in front of me now? No, but yes. So.
Because I'm curious about that. Sure. I can say something else.
Absolutely.
If you know Bill,
yeah.
I was on the town website because I talked to John Tian at one point, and so I was investigating what this energy conservation and Weiss, and it didn't make sense to me, so I was reading through it, and it said that there was openings for the board, and also John mentioned that there weren't enough people to have a quorum in the meetings. So I figured that made sense to, try to apply for that at that point. But it was, it was listed as an opening on the website. Is it an advisory committee to the selection?
I want to say yes, but I can't tell you 100%. I need to check with the town clerk to see how their exact charge is. We can find that. I can certainly find that answer for you, but again, we are not creating a committee here.
No,
we are simply filling
vacancies. We're being asked to fill a vacancy and do something, and I think it'd be good to know what the charge is and what's going on.
So I would agree to some extent with what Jim's saying and sort of understanding what we're doing, but I also think we have these opportunities when people want to step up, and particularly if the committee right now can't get a quorum. I think it's a big benefit for us to get them to a point where they can at least hold meetings. And in that case, then there are probably more positions that still need to be filled, and that might be the job for the next board.
All right, seeing no other discussion, I'll call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed?
Nay.
Karen, can I ask for a roll call vote? Jim?
No.
Mike?
Yes.
Erica? Yes. Motion carried.
And I'm not, I think Bill is very qualified, the appointment, all that. I'm just uncomfortable, as I stated.
Perfectly fine.
Not having the information on, that's all. Thank you.
All right, item B, thank you, Bill, again, for your willingness to serve. If you want to stay and join us, you're more than welcome, but we will not be heartbroken.
Okay. It doesn't get more exciting.
It might. All right, fire department analysis. This is something that came to us from the Emergency Services Efficiency Committee. Kind of by way of present to speak, I would say that committee should be reporting officially to this board, and so that can be done in a letter to the first selectman, and then has to be put on the agenda.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
what I did was I sent an email to all of you, I
Right,
didn't,
right, and so.
you need a formal letter, I can do
But I
that.
think, if I can speak.
Okay.
So the committee should report to this board, as you're an advisory committee of this board, and, what I don't want, the townspeople to think, and I wanna be clear, that, not giving someone unlimited time and present to speak, to talk about those things, is not trying to make the town aware, but it's not where we conduct business. And so, now and even in the future, a simple communication to the first selectman's office, I would be happy to put something on the agenda so you would have had time to speak. Okay, and
That's fine.
yeah, that's for any of those advisory committees. We want to make sure that we leave room to talk. Our last meeting didn't allow us to add any business because of the snafu that happened in town clerk's office, and that's why. So, so you've asked us to be added to the agenda to have a discussion about another potential analysis of fire station location, so.
Yes,
To not go to the
it's,
chair of that committee.
it's a study mostly in,
Introduce.
Oh, Pete Tanaka, 125 Basin Road, Chairman of the Fire Department Emergency Services Efficiency Committee. We cover all the emergency services, such as they are. Yeah, this idea was brought to us by Mr. McCoo. There's a new study outline that the federal government has given us the outline for, so that we know where the calls are in town and what kind of calls they are, and where we could best locate our fire departments. And then it gives us a percentage of where we are from optimum. Unfortunately, we can't just go by optimum space. We have to use the spaces we have now. In retrospect, I think that both departments have a little trepidation about going forward with this, in that it may slow us down on projects that we need already, and I wouldn't want that to happen. Also, it may not give us information that we like to hear. We've also had 3 previous studies. I think this study would be different than those 3 previous, because the 3 previous focused a lot on how to combine the departments, and I don't think that's what this study would do. It would cause a fair amount of work for both departments, trying to work with the study people, trying to figure out where, feeding them the data they need to report to us. I think it would be valuable mostly for the town, not these guys work with it every day, but it would give us some information on what we need, where we need it, and how to best stage those properties and advantages.
So, okay, I see Chief Snyder not joining us.
Pardon me?
Do we expect Chief Snyder?
No, I don't think so.
So Chief Moore is here. We'll ask you if you'd like to speak to this item.
So I told Peter, and I told Mike too, is that we're not opposed to any study or what the findings would come of it. The department's fear is the delay that it'll cause in either trying to fix something with our station or us moving forward. I don't see this, if we were to move forward with the study, it probably won't be done until July, roughly, easily.
I didn't think that long, but it really depends on when we get funding approved.
Right.
If we were to get-
Reading through these studies and how in depth they actually are. The data most of the data we can pull between the 2 departments. The dispatch center can do heat maps, and that's what they're looking for call volume, stuff like that. I have a big fear of waiting a year before we can start figuring out what we're gonna do with the main station on River
All right.
Road. And that's a very big concern of ours.
If I can, I have lots of concerns. Mainly, my office has tens of thousands of dollars of studies, not just for the fire department, sitting on a shelf, which we've done nothing with. We received a study on how much money we should put into our roads, and then we find we can't do that. We have studies on what we should do with our fire departments. We've been trying to build our capital improvement plan off of that. This was another issue on what we already knew was a challenge building. I'm not sure what, I'm not comfortable moving forward with study A, we have zero funding for. And what the outcome is going to be out of it. What are we looking to get from it that we don't already have? We know we need stations, and the other studies, while the consolidation was on the table and that was a discussion, I think what came out of those was, we know we need stations where they are, right? That I believe that they are located where they need to be, at the very least. And maybe this is something that gets put through CIP. We're talking about in the world, at the numbers correct me if I'm wrong, looking upwards of $30,000 that we do not have funding for. And so where's the urgency to go before the taxpayers to say we need $30,000 today and not waiting for the process for a study that could be months and months and months and still doesn't address the issue of a firehouse we have that's just sitting vacant.
Can I respond to that?
Absolutely.
So there's a lot of stuff that's been said by 3 people here, and I don't know that I'll be able to respond to all of it. It's clear that there is a desire to make sure this doesn't happen, but I would caution that we think about this. They're already, you know, the fact of the matter is we do have previous studies. They were not this scope. They were clearly not this scope. On top of the fact that we have some of those studies were about town buildings, and we are right now through this office pursuing money to assess town buildings again. So the idea of replacing old studies with newer studies is this is not the only conversation like that. We are expending taxpayer money to do that, to get better, newer information. The fact of the matter is the scope of this is very clear. And by the way, I've been bringing this idea up since the efficiency committee started like 4.5, 5 years ago. And the idea is that and we learned a lot of this during the school building committee, when we are asking the taxpayers to put up a bunch of money to build something big, capital, the taxpayers want to know why. They want to have a basis for why we're asking for a certain this or a certain that. There's no question that there's a history of both fire departments looking for money. It's been in capital for 15 years or more, 20 years that the fire departments have been looking for capital. There were previous land proposals with Willington Hill. There has been design work done quite a bit for Willington 1. There's design work in progress for Willington Hill right now. There's been a lot going on. Sooner or later, the 2 departments are both going to be asking the taxpayers for some probably $4-5 million each, some number like that, for fire stations. I think it's fair that the taxpayers have data. None of the previous studies actually studied calls, location of calls, and where the resources should be. This is a tough issue for both fire departments because there are 2 independent fire departments, and the departments have concern that the study might say that people are better served by moving apparatus to different places. And that is a concern for the fire departments, and I understand that. I'm a 40-year fire service member in this town. But that also is exactly why we have to do something. We actually have to tell the taxpayers that, because if the study says they typically do 5 years of data. If the study looks at 5 years of data and says, man, look at the numbers, the tanker truck has to be at this location, you'll better serve the public. That's the answer. It'll better serve the public. So $30,000 is a big chunk of money, and we are in the middle of the budget year, but we can't say, let's wait and put it through the process for CIP. At the same time, we're also saying we're afraid it's going to hold up the process. We need to move faster, get the information so that we can hopefully have a better chance of approval of the capital money. I understand you're concerned about the capital process getting slowed down. You're not going to get any big capital money until July 1 anyway. When we're talking about hundreds or tens of hundreds or millions or whatever, that's not going to happen until next July 1 anyway.
Right, well, my fear is that this won't be done until June or July. We're through budget season.
Right. Well, the capital budget season's coming right now anyway, so I think we have to put we have to continue the capital budget process as we best can estimate is the right thing to do. Your capital plan is gonna change this year anyway from what you've been doing, because now you have this emergency with your building. Right, so if you're gonna tell the taxpayers, we can
I'm looking
Band-Aid
for the CIP, so if you see me on my phone, that is all I'm doing.
If we tell the taxpayers, we can Band-Aid together the building for 300,000, but then we need to do something real. Which is probably, that's one of the things you've been talking about, right? How do we help the taxpayers decide what the real thing is?
Correct. But
Because you basically, let's face it, you need a new building.
correct, but at the same time, I would hate to waste $300,000 if we're going to 6 months later say, we need to build a new firehouse there.
But
You already know you need to build a new firehouse, whether it's there or somewhere else, you know you need to build a new firehouse.
You said it was extremely important to turn the heat on, get a vehicle in there and get a body somewhere located
Correct.
nearby, if not in the firehouse.
Correct.
So you can have good response time throughout
Absolutely.
town, so.
And the study
that's what
won't
we're
slow
working
that
on.
down.
That's your next item on your
The
agenda.
and that
study
might be
won't
the
halt
three-
that.
Yeah,
No, but that might be the $300,000 you gotta spend first to Band-Aid it.
yeah, so I, the reason I'm looking up the CIP. I always think I know what's on it, but I wanna be sure that I quote correctly. There's a lot of money in this CIP plan for design and work on buildings. And again, if it's not in year one, it is simply a plan and adjustments could be made to it. But I feel after 6 years of sitting here, nothing has been done with these large facilities, nothing. We put something else now before, what we said we were gonna do. When I sat down in this seat, we were moving in it, they had started one, aspect and we were moving to step 2 and that got pushed back, then pushed back and pushed back. We've got the 2 departments in line. I do not disagree with needing maybe to get some information. I wanna see it go through the regular budget process. I don't see, the need to rush it through. And that's where I see it. If we're gonna ask taxpayers to spend another $30,000 we didn't plan, we don't have, for more data that we may or may not actually fund anything from, I'd rather see it in the regular process. I am completely jaded by the tens of thousands of dollars we spend on studies. And year 2 is next year. There's some design, survey and engineering work on one department that put off everything at the other department to get the 2 in line. Now, without a doubt, all of that gets pushed back at least a year. The people who are losing here are our residents, the end user of our services. And I tip my hat to all of you in the fire service. I know how hard you work and I know how much you dedicate to this, but I'm hard pressed to say I support off CIP, off budget, going to taxpayers and saying right now, before we do anything else, we need to put $30,000 into this study. I mean, I just told you I need $22,000 to cool a room in the town office building for a multitude of purposes. And I'm waiting for it to go through the process. I can see the data that will come from it. The timing is where I have concern.
I understand that, but delaying it isn't gonna improve anything. Delaying the study, and if we're asking the taxpayers to fund maybe as much as $10 million for 2 fire stations, we ought to spend the 30,000 to help them be sure they're getting the right thing for their investment.
But we didn't plan for it. All this time, emergency services has been coming up and it correct me if I'm wrong, is it a catalyst for this to say, let's do a study about it? We were 9 months ago, we were perfectly fine moving forward with the plan we had without the data. I'm just saying, what's the rush?
I still think we're
Right now.
talking out of both sides of our mouths here.
So,
Because we're saying in this room right now, we've got a problem, which we do, and we have an acute problem. This isn't a problem we can plan long-term out of, right? The acute part of the problem we have to fix now. But then we're saying, I don't understand why we need to be moving quickly. We should be doing this in a planful process. These 2 things should be working together.
I think if something.
This is why we need to move faster.
But I think if something needs to move faster, we need to move faster to correct the issues in the building, and I don't care which building that is. Our school buildings have the same problem, but once again, we're gonna pause funding to actually mitigate the issue in the building until we study about what we wanna do with the building.
No one said pausing any funding.
So we're gonna go to taxpayers for renovations on a facility that then a study may say shouldn't be there, or we don't need those services, or.
Then the
it doesn't need
taxpayers
that
shouldn't
size.
pay for that building. If the study says the building doesn't belong there, we should not be asking the taxpayers for that money. So we do the emergency repairs, we get them functional, no one's questioning that. But in the meantime, when we're gonna talk about the big capital outlay to build new stations, when we're talking $5 or $10 million, we should be sure we're building them in the right places. That's what should happen.
So the emergency is to get the heat turned on.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
So we agree with that.
Absolutely.
But I'm kind of going down the path that if you want to then resolve your fire building needs and issues, and you want to double check with those heat maps or whatever, the statistical analysis, it probably should be planned for in our CIP process.
So that can happen, it just pushes us out another 9 months, because that means you wouldn't start until July 1 of next year.
But the building is then, you're saying, if I recall, the numbers were somewhere around 300,000.
I'm guessing, yeah.
All right, so then at
Yeah.
some point, we're gonna have to go to the taxpayers for another $300,000 and another 30,000. And if I'm the average taxpayer, I'm saying, why are we doing all these things together? And again, I do see it, Mike, I want to.
We're gonna have to spend $10 million.
But going through that process, right, going through that process of those hearings, the CIP plan, all those things brings the public up to speed. You've all heard it numerous times, because we sat on CIPs and heard all the presentations and all that, but.
So my bigger argument is the study should be done. My smaller argument is sooner is better. My bigger argument is the study should be done. I make not a penny out of this. I think.
Mr. Tanaka?
So if we're gonna wait.
When the study is now or later, I think when the town does need that information, because if we go and build a building for them, the study's not gonna tell us to tear down the building and build it someplace else. It's gonna tell us what percentage of ideal it is. If we hit 80% of ideal on anything, I think we're doing really well. So what we wanna do is we wanna have that information when it becomes available, so that when we do need to build the big dollar building, we can go to the town and say, this is what we're doing and why. I don't disagree that it should probably go through the CIP process, but I do not want the fact that a study is coming in the future to hold these guys up. We need to get that building open, or the taxpayers on the north end of town are gonna start hurting on their insurance. It's gonna come. They're not getting the coverage. They need the coverage. We need to fix their building. And whether we're 100% or 50%, we just need to let the town know that at some point. And those heat maps, I think, would be very helpful. They're not my main concern. My main concern is what buildings we should be using for what. Where should our EOC be? Where should our training facility be? Where should these are the things that we need to be discussing, and probably the aligning so that we only have one EOC and one training center, because as a town.
We only have one EOC.
Yeah.
Okay.
But as a town, as the citizens of the town, they want to know we only have one EOC. I bet if you went out and asked 15 people, 14 of them would look at you and go, what's an EOC? You know? Much less how many of them there are. I think that this information is more important for the town and for justifying what we're gonna be spending. And I think we're gonna need to spend some money.
And for that, I think it should be part of the plan.
Right.
And the first part of the plan would include a consideration of this, and then all of that design work. I mean, there's a lot of things in the plan, and I hesitate to say right now, the very first thing we need to go to taxpayers for is an additional fund to do a study that we hadn't thought about before. Maybe we did, hadn't come before us before. And it has yet to rise to this occasion. I would have loved for this to happen this time last year. We put it.
Well, it would have happened in this budget season, except then this happened with the building, which changed everything.
So the real emergency is we should address the emergency.
Absolutely.
Get it buttoned up, take care of that.
Yes.
And that's gonna require going to taxpayers for an additional.
And that's why I'm thinking that the following, I agree about the study, but I agree it should be rolled in with the capital plan.
So I just want to address a couple
Because
things.
maybe you want a bigger building, or maybe you want a smaller
Well,
building, I don't know.
And as we
Based on
build
the
these
equipment.
large buildings on the taxpayer's dollar, I think we need to start thinking about what the town has and what the town owns and what belongs to the town and not two independent corporations anymore. That I know is a fight that is decades old,
It's not a fight.
an argument, but
No,
you
it's
know.
not. It's in the contracts, it's already established.
Right.
If we build a new firehouse, the town has all the power to say this belongs to the town.
Right, and so then and I think there's a bigger discussion about,
I don't think that's, I don't think we
And
have to
that's not-
solve that problem.
so, but while I have lots of issue with studies, specifically around the fire department too, I would be hard pressed to send this forth to taxpayers now, saying we need to do this outside of the regular budget process.
Okay, I just would like to address, Pete, you said before two things I wanted to clarify. One, about the ISO changing people's homeowners insurance. I don't think that's likely to happen. There was a long period of time where there was no fire truck in the village. Nobody in the village had their insurance go up. This was a lot of years ago, but nobody in the village had their insurance go up because of it. So you could make that argument anywhere in town. Someone in the far north end of town could say, I'm too far away from the firehouse now. You know, so that I don't think people's homeowners insurance is gonna change right now. I agree, we need to get that building functional. I am not challenging that in any way at all. I've talked with Chief Moore a lot about ideas of trying to help him get that building functional. The other thing is the heat maps. I think you said you weren't as concerned about the heat maps as some of the other information like 1EOC and stuff like that. I would just remind everybody in the room that these people's job is to study data and present it in a standardized format. And one of the biggest thing that comes out of it when you review the studies they've done is they say for things like, this is the amount of critical ambulance calls you have in this part of town, whatever part it is. And so those are the people who have the highest level of need and quick service. Right now, your assets are located in a position that gives you 20% or 90% of coverage within a certain time frame, 3 minutes or whatever. And so that the biggest value of the heat maps is it tells you that this is where your services are most needed, and this is where your services are most located, and how close are they? What is your percentage of success? And that in the end is the only reason these organizations are supposed to exist.
Mm-hmm.
Is to put this task, the resources to a task.
Right.
Right? So if all the heart attacks are happening at the southeast corner of the town, we don't want the ambulance in the northwest corner of the town, right? Well, I've got my east and west mixed up, but whatever.
I agree with you wholeheartedly. I just think that if we don't have this study, this is information that we can get and we have the professionals that.
And we've been talking about it for years and no one is willing to do the work. We've been talking about it for years.
Yeah.
If I could produce the heat maps with the times from each station as to where the ambulances are to the response call to the Emergency Services Commission for the next meeting, that would help.
Yes.
It would certainly help, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, you can't produce this level of work you don't have the time to produce this level of work, right? But sure. Give us something to talk about. We talked about that 4 years ago at that committee.
Yep.
All right.
Ricky Kobe.
No, you're telling me. All right,
I'm assuming we're done with this.
unless somebody is proposing action of some sort. Hearing none. Doesn't mean this item is done for discussion, just done for discussion this evening. All right, Wellington Fire Department number 1, temporary housing. So the fire department went before the Board of Finance asking for funding for the ability to put some temporary housing at Station 13, the corner of Chask Road and River Road, to move one of the 2 overnight staff members there because they have to vacate the temporary quarters that they have been using. The fire marshal and building official, have both said this needs to end. And so they went to Board of Finance on Thursday night in a special meeting, proposed not from a vendor, but you know, a general idea of they found a used trailer and used the ability to fund, from the general fund, a one-time up to $20,000 purchase. In this case, they, approved $15,000. The money will go into 930 within the selectmen's budget. So it will be a town purchase. This is a fire department request, but a town purchase. Our business manager suggested that the information, that the purchase not be done in a transfer to the fire department, not because we don't trust them, but because this would then be an asset.
That was our request as well.
Yes, and when Donna brought it to me, I said that lines up with what Chief Moore had said. They just assumed the town could own this, and when and if we stop using it, the town can decide if we have a use for it, or if we want to sell it, and the money would go back into the general fund. So Chief Moore has given us a copy of a potential purchase from one vendor. I know you looked at.
So we did have 3 quotes. The second one that was within $500 of this one was sold.
Okay.
And the only other one I have is about $6,000 more.
Okay.
So it's outside of the price scope of what we had. And the other one's the one that's $6,000 more is very tiny. And when I mean tiny, there's no slide outs, there's no, it was a bed and a little kitchenette area and a bathroom. So just we all met at the firehouse. I did give first black woman a copy of the order from the fire marshal that we need to stop doing what we are doing. Currently one person sleeps in a kitchen next to the stove, and talking with him and the building official, that can't happen anymore. So that led us to this, plus the hope of getting somebody back up on that side of town. This is the cheapest way to do it. We did look at many different options of how can we make this work up there. From renting a trailer at $100 a day, not knowing the length of time that we're gonna need it, was not a great idea. We had some other options that, for rentals, we did look at construction trailers. Those were at $17,000, but then you need to get an electricity drop to it, and the building official says that those are technically not considered residential, so you can't technically live in one. So that was an issue. That was about $17,000. We looked at renting an apartment close to the Depot Road station, but that was about $2,000 a month. So that really wasn't a great option. So we were able to find this trailer at Longview RV. I can tell you I've done so much research on trailers in the last 3 weeks that I never thought I would ever need. So
I don't
want
so I will say, one of the first things that Chief Moore had brought to me when he was going before the Board of Finance and gathering his information was, if we do X spread bed trailer, and the Board of Finance gave him up to 20,000 they could, that would probably only get us 7-8 months at best. We had a line on one that would be less expensive, maybe a little further. This really doesn't, it's meant to be temporary, but not under a time crunch, and then we have to come up with more funding for that temporary housing because we would own this. And so as opposed to, at this point, somewhere under $15,000 for 6 months,
right,
we're talking about an unlimited amount of time.
Yeah, as far as dollars per month, so however you want to
This
put
is
it,
much better.
dollars per time, this makes way more sense.
Yeah. And
so the hope is, so the Board of Finance authorized 15,000. The 13,663 is the purchase of the trailer after the fees and
Dealer prep.
the dealer prep.
Yeah.
So it's $795 for the dealer prep and $399 for the fees.
and then you still would have enough money for the
Propane hookup.
propane hookup and any other.
Yep, so
additional-
it needs the propane hookup. JRJ Gas will come in, just run a line. We've already talked to the building official, he said that's easy to do. They run a line to it so that but the trailer's gonna be 25 feet off of the building, or off of the propane tank, so
Away from the tank.
away from the tank, so it actually lines up. Anybody remembers during COVID, we actually had a camper there. So where we had the camper before is where this will go. Waypoint will come in and hook up the septic to it. It's not Holly anymore, correct?
Correct.
Crit will need to come out and just go over it before we can have Waypoint hook up to the septic. And the other part of it is we do need to have a 30 amp plug. Where we hooked it in before, we just have to have Before we can run the heat, we have to have a 30-amp plug put in. I thought it was a 30-amp, it's not, it's only 50.
Okay.
So. But
And you
a
think
30
you
amp,
can do that with what you have remaining of the 15,000, and then other than that, you have to go to departmental funds?
correct.
Okay.
How are you gonna do water once it gets to be winter? Do you have to just shut off the hose and pull it back inside to the?
Nope, they actually make, for $100, they make a heated hose that goes from the water spigot, so it'll heat the water spigot and it'll heat the water to the trailer. So that it does not freeze. The trailer itself has a heated underbelly. So everything, the tanks underneath, the lines underneath, everything is heated.
And we have some method to haul it from the dealer back here.
We do.
Okay.
One of our members thankfully hauls horses around a lot. So she has graciously said
So she's got equipment, great.
Just. On that point, let's make sure we resolve the insurance and registration issue, because if the town owns this and a private person is towing
That
it,
is
we don't wanna
correct.
put them in a jam. Or have the town lose the asset if somebody runs into them.
Yeah, did you see how my antenna go up when I said someone willing to do it? I thought.
Just to make sure everyone's covered.
Let's figure out what we need to do, right?
And I'm sure you can hire somebody to do that.
Yeah.
They can tow it down.
Yeah.
Under their insurance or whatever.
Okay.
Maybe tell the dealer, fine on the deal, but you throw in the delivery since you're getting us already on these prep and fees.
Yeah.
So,
Deliver it.
I've done a lot of research into just when I think I know the purchase ordinance backwards and forwards. I read it again just to make sure, because in an instance like this, you're not talking apples to apples when we go looking for different places. And I know Chief Warren said he's had multiple quotes for different varieties of trailer. It's not going real set.
Yeah.
And by the time he's got to us, I expected us to see a couple of options in front of us, and now they're no longer available, as is the case with used equipment. So
The only reason this one is available is
Yeah.
because we put $1,000 deposit on it.
okay,
Just to hold it.
okay. And I will say they did that out of fire department
yeah.
funds, not town funds. We've written no check for anything at this point. So you know, our policy is to secure those bids and or seek them, and we have, I feel confident they have sought looking in the direction. And with that, I will move to approve, what is this? What is it? Priority RV? Is that the name of the vendor?
No, Longview RV, sorry.
Okay, I move to award Longview RV a purchase of a used 2011 Crossroads RV cruiser in an amount not to exceed $14,000.
Second.
All right, any discussion? And I gave that number, you see on your paper.
Yeah.
Some handwritten fees, in the absence
I
of
have,
something, right,
I have it
but
on
in
my
absence of
phone.
something formal, I'll say that just in case they say to you, well, it was really 7, you know,
I have the
805.
purchase order, but I just
Okay.
don't know what we said.
That's fine.
I just have a question,
yeah.
as far as process. The Board of Finance has approved the funding already, right?
Yes.
So what we're approving is the purchase.
Correct.
Because we're purchasing.
That's correct.
Right, okay, I just wanna make sure.
And typically we would approve a vendor. And they are the agent in the department that's making the purchase.
Yeah.
So the policy says that the Board of Selectmen sign the contract and choose any vendor. And so that's why those boards or commissions do their work, make a recommendation to us, and they're recommending this be who we choose, and we choose this.
And you, I believe you commented already that you're satisfied we meet the intent of our purchasing
correct.
rules about 3 bids.
Yes.
Because this is a unique situation.
Correct. And really the Board of Selectmen can choose the method by which bids happen. And so there's a lot of discretion, and I think you use that only in specific instances like this, when we're looking at used cars. When we were looking at a potential used truck to fill Troy's, and I get off topic, we were looking at, you know, how do we do that, and had lengthy conversations with our business manager about this particular issue with a used vehicle. So I feel confident we have.
I think it's a good price.
You know,
We're trying to work with them on warranty.
my hope is that it's less time than we think we need, and we're able to sell it, and get almost as much back as we put into it for the town. That would be nice, so. All right, seeing no other discussion before us, I will call for a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries.
Thank you, and on behalf of our staff, we greatly appreciate it.
Thank you. No more sleeping next to a stove, still. All right, item D under new business, brings us to tax refunds. All right, hold on to your hats, fellas, we got a few. You're online with us, kick back. I hope my order is the same as yours. I move to refund song, a refund in the amount of $13.96.
Second.
I'll let you pick that. Who's that? Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. Who'd you award that to? Yeah. Okay, so now they like to go back and forth. I move to refund Travis G. Hall, certificate of correction in the amount of $94.65.
Second.
Seconded by Mike. Any discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries. I move to refund Sally J. McAllister and Stephen H. McAllister an overpayment in the amount of $10.
Second.
Seconded by Jim. Any discussion?
No, Kevin.
Oh. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Sorry, I'm resistant. All right. Aye. Did we all vote yes? Okay, motion carries. I apologize if my phone goes. Okay. I move to refund BOR Living Trust a certificate of correction in the amount of $48.24.
Second.
Seconded by Mike. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye. Motion carries. All right, I move to refund BOR Living Trust a certificate of correction in the amount of $46.90.
Second.
Seconded by Jim. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I move to refund BOR Living Trust a certificate of correction in the amount of $44.98.
Second.
Seconded by Mike. Any discussion?
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Motion carries. I move to refund Ricky L. Bior and Shirley A. trustees certificate of correction in the amount of $44.98.
Second.
Seconded by Jim. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. I move to refund Rick L. Bior and Shirley A. trustees a certificate of correction in the amount of $45.12.
Second.
Seconded by Mike. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I move to refund Rick L. Bior and Shirley A. a certificate of correction in the amount of $45.12.
Second.
Seconded by Jim. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. I move to refund Nissan Infinity LT LLC overpayment in the amount of $46.86.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I move to refund Cab East LLC an overpayment in the amount of $322.02.
Second.
Seconded by Jim. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. I move to refund Cab East LLC an overpayment in the amount of $238.74.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 I move to refund JP Morgan Chase Bank NA overpayment in the amount of $343.97.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. With $343.97.
Yes.
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 I move to refund JP Morgan Chase Bank NA overpayment of $557.42.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. I move to refund Nissan Infinity LT LLC an overpayment in the amount of $349.28.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. We're halfway down, folks. I move to refund Nissan Infinity LT LLC an overpayment in the amount of $90.74.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. I move to refund Infinity, Nissan Infinity LT LLC an overpayment in the amount of $512.42.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Lots of people bought their leases out, and that's why you're seeing these overpayments. For those following along at home. I move to refund, whoa, what's happening here? Vault Trust, an overpayment in the amount of $476.21.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. I move to refund Mark O. Mosier an overpayment in the amount of $225.76.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry, I'm trying to actually read them, so.
I move to refund Roberts Douglas J. Yeah,
Douglas Roberts.
Roberts, comma, Douglas J.
yeah, it's funny because they're not always like that, they're still different. An overpayment in the amount of $52.42.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries. I move to refund Douglas J. Roberts and Margaret M. Roberts an overpayment in the amount of $122.85.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I move to refund Jacqueline M. Roberts an overpayment in the amount of $135.07.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. I move to refund Susan and Mark Walsh an overpayment in the amount of $94.28.
Second.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Take a breath. And for the record, there are a couple more that went in the basket before it came downstairs. All right, that brings us to old business, Everbridge notification policy. Oh, I never heard back from him. I know. So let me tell you some additions I made. I think so. On page 1, you see general on number 2 and highlighted in yellow, where it says the first selectman and emergency management director shall establish a mass notification committee. The committee shall be responsible for reviewing after action reports and establishing reasonable guidelines. I think that committee could simply be the board of selectmen. Could be that committee.
Mm-hmm.
And that can come after we have a policy that can be created, and it could simply be the entire board takes a look at those things. The others I think are pretty standard. They reflect back to the committee. On page, I removed some highlights from our last because I think they're comfortable. I'm comfortable with them staying in. On page 3, you see highlighted in yellow administrative broadcast request form. I think that's something we need to create, whether we do it ourselves or borrow one that's being used in another town. But we have that standard form so that we have the backup for any message we put out. On page 4, made some simple corrections from the last time, basically saying that there would be a mass notification system used to contact town employees, and that that distribution group would include all employees. In some larger towns, they're different departments. We are pretty small, so we would do this as a whole. And just saying that this is what it would be intended to be used for, and that's not a whole list. So I took out the language that spoke to multiple departments and department heads doing this messaging.
Right.
In Wellington, it just would be coming out of the selectman's office or the EMT. And then again, the employee broadcast report form, that would be if a department felt the need. And I would think maybe it would come from Public Works in this instance, or the selectman's office, that we create that report.
Or the EMD.
Or the EMT. And the attachment, again, is the policy of the end. So this gives us a policy to start. Any policy put in place can and should be reviewed and updated as needed. But in order,
I think that's the important message out of it.
Right.
I kept trying to find a way of reading through it, trying to find a way to make it perfect. When I realized that I was
I was keeping it from actually succeeding by trying to make it perfect.
Yeah.
I just couldn't anticipate exactly how to solve every problem with
That's
it,
right.
so I think it's so close now that this is what should go forward.
I agree, because I was originally looking at it, I started writing down some stuff, I'm going like, you don't know until you actually run it and try it.
Yeah, and again, I think I know I shared this with you. This came, we did not create this.
Right.
Almost verbatim from a town that has been using this well-loved policy extensively for some period of time. And so I feel like, at least for Wellington, we're starting out from a solid place that meets the needs of the system as it's meant to be. Then we can tailor it up or down to Wellington as we utilize it and see how often we're doing that. But I think the important part is that it narrows in scope the use of this.
Right.
If we decided we wanted to open it up more, then we could have that ability in a policy, or a future board could, but this eliminates it being really misused as a standard practice.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I was debating even how many levels of notifications we should have, and I think in my mind, I feel like, you know, there's 3, but maybe that I was narrowing it to just my experience. And, you know, in my mind, it was emergency or critical information or administrative.
Right.
You know, but this has emergency in 2 levels, so maybe it turns out that's better. So I decided to stop fighting it. And let it happen.
And let it happen. And let's see, because again, some of these include.
I'm sure someone will tell us how we screwed up, so.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely, no matter what
Oh,
version we
yeah.
use.
Yeah, so you'll
The good
have
news
plenty
is-
of opportunity to fix it.
I hope
Yes.
I'm gonna knock on this probably fake wood table that by the time this has to be used, they will be telling our successors.
I'm hopeful
How it
it
should
will
be
never be used.
Well, I think it will, like trees are gonna
Yeah.
go down and they're gonna
Yeah.
block a road, and that's
Yeah.
something simple. You know,
Yeah.
there's too much snow and the town offices are closed today.
Yes, I agree, it'll be used.
There's a referendum being held, and we wanna make sure that people know that large scale event that's really important, that we could use. Those are probably the only community type events we would use.
Right.
Use it for, and so, okay, so we need a motion.
I move that we approve the mass notification policy as presented.
Second.
Seconded by Jim, any further discussion? No, I will just say that, again, I know we shared with you, Karen, has come up with some working documents to start to get the information out there. That's gonna be our next step, and working on that and start getting folks to opt in to the policy. So we'll be able to be prepared for any and all emergencies we need to do before. So thank you very much. All right. That is the end of our business. On our policy, not put present to speak on, but I know this is the present to speak. Anyone in the room present to speak? No. Mr. Tulis.
Ralph Tillis, 47 Billis Hill Road. Back to the fire department for a moment. I was just put in a position of having to find a new homeowner's insurance policy. And I was declined by farmers because of 2 things. The length of my driveway and the rating of our local fire department from a risk analysis perspective for the insurance company. I was told by the agent that fire departments, municipalities' fire departments are rated on a scale from 1 to 10, 10 being bad, 1 being great. And Wellington was classified as 8. So just information. You're having a problem with this study? Well, maybe it should get done. And I think that perhaps Mr. McCoo and our fire chief has a good idea to push this forward. I understand the costs, yes, but there are some costs that us taxpayers can't avoid, and homeowners is one of them. Anyway, just some food for thought for you folks, and I have to get to another meeting, so I will.
Mr. Julis, can I ask you to send me any information you can that you have on that matter so that I can look into that?
I will see what I can get from the agent.
I appreciate it.
Okay. Bye now.
All right, anyone else online present to speak? All right, going once, going twice. You get 3 more opportunities to have our undivided attention. Okay. All right, that moves us to good and welfare. Food share will be here next Wednesday, October 11th, from 11 to 11:30. Remember, it is a walk-up model, so bring your own bags, and it happens rain or shine. Continue to support our small businesses and restaurants. Town offices, all offices will be closed on Monday, October 9th, a week from today, for Columbus Day, Indigenous Peoples Day. Ever you. October 22nd, the Wellington Public Library will be holding a 100-year celebration at the library. It will be in the community room downstairs. Both selectmen received an invitation, an open invitation to the public. I am sad to say will not be able to join. I will I will be out of state that day, but look forward to hearing about celebration of our library in its 100 years. Rain did not stop the annual car show. The car show came out of the 275th Wellington celebration, and Joe Philippi puts his heart and soul into that event. So they raised just a little over $500 yesterday, and it wasn't as well attended as we would like. That happens when there's a rain day. A lot of cars are attending multiple shows in a weekend. But my hat's off to Joe for all of the hard work he does, all of those folks that came out. He is looking to retire from this. So we had a conversation about how the town could take over. And so I've had a discussion with Parks and Rec. And they're gonna be talking about that. And I think we may see, I wanna see this continue. I think it's a great thing, especially as we come up on 275.
300.
Oh, sorry, 300. This came from 275. And to keep it going. But thank you to Joe Philippi for all the work that he does. And I have the September, on the first day of October, Tripsy is right with it, getting us our September report. There were 287 total calls for service in September, including 12 accidents, 13 criminal investigations, 0 burglaries, 3 larcenies, 173 non-reportable matters, and 10 arrests. Motor vehicle enforcement included 82 total traffic stops, 5 on-site DUIs, 5 arrests, 3 misdemeanor summons, 48 infractions, 10 written warnings, 19 verbal warnings. It's another call I will put out there, folks, slow down on the roads. Our roads are not racetracks. Wellington's, our neighboring towns, it's becoming an ever popular issue, and enough is enough with that. Good and welfare from either of you. Oh, and yesterday was a good chicken barbecue from Wellington Health Fire Department. So if anyone else wants to create a meal to feed us in town, they will come. So thank you to the folks over there. I did express my interest in seeing it going back to it in person. I understand it's a lot of work. They do a great job at takeout, but it's nice to get into the room, into the firehouse, and talking with our fellow
It's in discussion.
So I keep putting my 2 cents in. So
It's in discussion to go back to dining.
Yeah, thanks for feeding the Ocean Speaks yesterday and others. Good and welfare from Melissa.
Just for the couple of people left online, we did a quick conversation in quiet across the room. I believe the ISO information that the previous speaker talked about is probably inaccurate by their insurance agency. They may be looking at an older report. Wellington was at one time an ISO 9, and he was told ISO 8. And we believe we're a 5.5. You just verified. Okay. So Wellington is a 5.5 now. The scales were changed. So I think that 8 number is not valid at all.
We've done a lot of work in town to increase our rating with hydrants and staffing and stuff like that, so.
Yeah, and we get benefit for things now that we did not get in the past. We would have been stuck at the 9 in the past, but now the system has changed a little.
Yeah, and again, that's a little bit why I asked him to share what he could, so that we can look into that, what they're getting their number from and what we're getting a number from the town, so we can see where there's a discrepancy for our taxpayers. It
does occasionally happen. We've had bad information in the insurance industry a couple times in the past, and people have contacted us saying they were told that we are ISO 10, which means you don't have a fire department. And that was completely inaccurate. There was just somehow some bad data got out in the insurance world and spread through the rating system, and people, insurance companies were
When I get that,
falling apart about it.
when I get that, I'll share that with you, and Tom, you can, share it with that resident, hopefully get that fixed up. All right, seeing no other, yes,
Just real quick.
yeah,
Sorry. Tomorrow night starts off CIP's tours of,
yes.
of the public buildings. They're starting with our stations, both at 143 River Road, and then we're going up to the main station at 426 River Road. Anyone that's listening or watches this after, if you're interested in what's going on, please attend these. It's your time to come out and see not just the fire departments, but every town building. I'm not on CIP, but that is my pitch.
Excellent.
I think it's important everybody sees the building.
And Saturday, September 28th, is the PTA trunk or treat.
October
So if you're-
28th.
October, did I say September? Day? Give me a day. Saturday, October 28th is the PTA trunk or treat at River Road Athletic Complex. If you're interested in a trunk, reach out to the PTA. If you're interested in a treat, then head on down to the park. All right, now, seeing no other business before us, I will move to adjourn at 7:46 p.m. It's quick. All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you.
That one you shot.
He was sharp and fast. The
Well, I
other,
didn't have to read, so.
the other ones we've been told,
And you know, some chewing gum, which is messing me up.
Well, chew gum and read is the same.
I know.
Gonna stop recording. Go to end,
The hearing our chit chat banter.